Hey everybody, Franklin here, day 39 of our 40-day negativity fast. Thank you so much for joining me, and if you're just joining us now with the negativity fast, you can actually scroll back and see all the videos right from day one. Yesterday we started talking about the 3 levels of transformation on this journey with God that He takes us through. We talked about Moses and how Moses went through his 3 levels, which was forgiveness, restoration, and redemption. And we talked about that somehow in this process there's an encounter with God, and He takes another level of restoration and brings the scale of it up so that this restoration is affecting more than just your own life, but is affecting a much larger group of people. In Moses' case, it was the whole nation of Israel. Now I want to introduce you to someone that I'm sure you all know, which is Saul, also known as Paul from the New Testament. And this was a guy who went through his own process of restoration and redemption. And when we first meet him in Acts chapter 9, you can go and read that for himself, that this is a guy who is in a really messed up condition. He's actually so out of touch with what he's doing that he thinks that he's serving God by organizing the killings of Christians. He's got things completely messed up inside of his head. And he is in this kind of murderous rage that he's carrying with him. And he has this famous encounter with God where he's knocked off his horse and doesn't even know the voice that's speaking to him. Who are you? He then goes through a lengthy restoration process. It says that he spent 14 years out in the desert. God's healing his heart. He's changing him. And he gets so radically transformed by God that what he eventually emerges out of this is that he becomes the apostle of grace sent to the Gentiles. This is so polar opposite of where he has come from. This is the dramatic, miraculous, wondrous transformation of God. And we see that in this process, there's a flipping that happens. And God gets in there and He flips our greatest weakness and turns it into our greatest strength. And that's part of the miraculous intervention of God. So in Moses' case, he was a person who he had some kind of speech impediment. He says he stutters or whatever, and he becomes the greatest leader of the Israelites. This is a guy who was a shepherd out in the desert. So in Saul's or Paul's life, he's this person who hates Christian Gentiles. He becomes the person who is the apostle of grace to these people. That is the absolute flipping that happens. And we see again in this restoration, there's another level of restoration that's happening, and the scale gets increased. And so Paul's restoration becomes something that affects the whole world. Later in Philippians 1:22, he says, "For me to live is Christ." I mean, this is the person who was taking the lives of Christians has such a transformation that he is now saying to live is Christ. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. So how does this apply to us on the negativity fast? Okay, in Paul's life, he had to have an absolute total flipping of how his thinking worked. To go from a person who hated Gentiles to the person who so dearly loved them. There was a major change in the way that he thought. And this changed the way that his actions went, the way his words went, the way his heart went. God changed his life. And so if you remember, about a week or so ago, I asked you to do a little bit of homework, which was to look back in your own life and see if there was a specific circumstance or event that you could pinpoint where negative thinking really began. And maybe you're able to pinpoint a specific event or circumstance or something that people said to you or whatever it was. And I'd like you to actually look at this 3-step process of forgiveness, restitution, and redemption. And let's look at applying that specifically to that circumstance. Is there someone that you need to forgive in that circumstance? And then ask God the restitution. What is the process of restitution in this? And somehow to be encountering God through this process, start asking Him about redemption. And how can that work and be applied into your specific circumstance of your life? So hey, thanks so much for joining me, and post some comments down below of how this is working in your life. Take care. God bless. See you tomorrow. Bye.